You that the views expressed in today's show do not reflect the views of KZLX, KNWT, or Northwest Missouri State University. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
How is everybody doing today? Welcome in to the weekend sports kickoff on X106 and KNWT Channel 8. Trevor Mader, Ryan Elliott, Jacob Blair, Kramer Sansone will be with us in a little bit, but right now we are joined by the sports editor of the Northwest Missourian, as we are every Friday, to look at what's going on in Bearcat Athletics. Justin Quick, but before we get things rolling, how's everybody doing today? It's Friday. It's November.
It really is.
November.
You know what? It's a nice powdery snow, though. There's not a whole lot of issues in terms of like slushiness. Let me try again. Slushiness and ice, and so that I think that's going to save a lot of the problems with the snow. So, it's just a pretty snow out there at the moment. Nice and powdery and making the campus look good.
It's also snow, which makes me frustrated in general. I'm not a snow guy.
And I think we're all...
So I'm already in a bad mood.
You're in Northwest Missouri. You're going to have to get over it.
Well, I know that, but that still doesn't mean I
and we were
like it.
We were discussing before we came on the air. I think all of us are going to be out and about covering high school football tonight. So it's going to be a little bit chilly. Temperature's going to drop down. And also, it looks like, Justin, tomorrow the weather going to be a little bit better than it is today, but still pretty chilly. I mean, you're going to make the trek down to Warrensburg, I believe.
Yeah.
Do you got your cold gear ready to go for that one?
Oh, yeah, always.
Yeah, just kind of tell me what you've seen in previewing this matchup between Central Missouri and Northwest, and what I think essentially for Northwest, the playoffs start tomorrow.
They do, because they lose this game. There's no easy way to put it. They're just not going to make the playoff. I don't foresee, unless some miracle circumstance happens where literally everybody else in the regional loses at the same time, I don't see that happening. And so if they lose this game, I don't think Northwest makes the playoffs. So I completely agree with you, Trevor, that the playoffs begin tomorrow for Northwest. And I think it's going to be a tough game for them. Central Missouri has a very high-powered offense. Their defense is, a little hit and miss at times, but their offense has been kind of consistent all year long. And they actually lead the conference in total offense per game with close to 500 yards per game. So if they're able to get off to a hot start, I mean, it could be another trouble, an issue game for Northwest, depending on how their offense comes to play. But I think the Northwest defense is going to show up regardless and kind of come out like they did against the Emporia game after they lost that Central Oklahoma game with something to prove.
And you mentioned Central Missouri, the opponent tomorrow, that game being played in Warrensburg. The Mules, 5-5 on the season. They've been kind of an up-and-down team this year. Their season kind of started off on a sour note. They lost quarterback Brooke Bowles in the first game to Fort Hays State. They blew out a Missouri Western team, but they've dropped some as well. They dropped to Central Oklahoma, Emporia State, Pitt State. But they're on a 2-game winning streak with wins over Nebraska, Kearney, and Lindenwood coming into this. So they've really got nothing to play for other than to send their seniors out with a win. And this could potentially be a little bit of a trap game for the Bearcats.
I think the thing you're encouraged about if you're Northwest is this is a team that has beaten the bad teams and lost to the good teams.
Pretty much.
That's pretty much the way that the season has gone. Losses have come to Pitt State, Emporia, Washburn, and Hayes. That's in Central Oklahoma as well. I think that's those are the teams that are the upper half of the conference. Meanwhile, the wins have come over Northeastern State. They've come over Missouri Western, Missouri Southern, Lindenwood, Nebraska Kearney. Those are the teams you expect to be at the bottom half of the conference. I think if you're Northwest here, you just have to show up. You've got to show up. You've got to play your game. You've got to be ready to go. And if you are, then you're in business. You're playing a team who is, you're the better team in this situation. But you still have to show up and you still have to play football.
Yeah, the only win that that Central Missouri has over a team with a winning record this year is Mo West, who is 6-4. Their other 4 wins: Kearney 4-6, Lindenwood 3-7, Southern 1-9, and Northeastern State 0-10. So, like you said, they beat the teams they should beat, lost to the teams they probably should lose to. And be an interesting one tomorrow. Looking at some of the stats for the Mules of Central Missouri, as we said, they were without Brooke Bowles. We thought was going to be one of the premier quarterbacks of the MIAA coming into the season. A pair of brothers that had been standouts at Northwest. Expecting big things from this year. Unfortunately, that first game against Fort Hays State, he went down with what turned out to be a season-ending injury. They've kind of since then turned to Jeremy Hunt, who's been efficient. 19 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, thrown for just over 2,200 yards. He's got a pair of receivers that he's relied on in Wyatt Shaw and Kyrion Parker. Running the ball, they got a pretty balanced attack with Devontae Turner and Kobe Wilkerson, each of them averaging about 5 yards a carry. So it's a pretty balanced offense, but also when you look at it, they have kind of underachieved maybe just a little bit this year.
It's a high number of interceptions. I think if you look at your Jeremy Hunt,
Yeah.
17. I think that's a number that's encouraging if you're Northwest. You know, you see 17 interceptions.
7.
Oh, you said 17.
Oh,
That's why I was confused.
Yeah,
Still, 7.
I don't know that he'd be the starter.
Well, yeah, that was 7 interceptions is still a pretty high number. I think you look at that number and you think, okay, we're going to have an opportunity. He's going to make a few mistakes. We're going to have to take advantage if you're the Northwest defense. I don't think the question is going to be stop the Central Missouri offense. I think the question is going to be outscore the Central Missouri offense in this situation. And with as bad as their defense has been, it doesn't look like that's going to be difficult. But this is the key here is not, it's not a schematic issue. It's not an issue where, you're facing a team where there's one guy you have to stop. It's not anything. The issue in this game, the difference in this game is going to be, can you show up? Can you show up, play your game, realize that this is win and you're in, lose and the season's over. Maybe you get a bowl game, woohoo. A D2 bowl game is not necessarily the most prestigious thing in the world, but so it's win and you're in the playoffs. You get a chance next week to probably go to Grand Valley and see what you can do, lose and you're done.
And like I said, the postseason for the Bearcats begins tomorrow. I mean, that you got to treat every game from here on out as a postseason game. And if, for whatever reason, if the Bearcats can't get it done in Warrensburg tomorrow, it'd be the first time since and assuming they don't make the playoffs, first time since 2003 that they did not make the playoffs. And that's something that's crazy to even comprehend, that we're sitting here on November 9th talking about how they could maybe be watching the postseason at home.
One of the big things for the Bearcats tomorrow is after the porous offensive performance we saw from them this last weekend, they got an opportunity to get that fixed this weekend. And like Ryan said, if they can take care of business, then they can get that offense fixed for when they go and probably end up playing the 3 seed for the playoffs and get some of those issues we saw last Saturday fixed.
And as you look at the regional rankings right now, you see, Grand Valley's sitting at that 3 seed. Tough place to go and play football. Grand Valley, a team that you've seen be, they've been a thorn in the side for Northwest for a long time. They lost back-to-back national championship games to Grand Valley State back in the mid-2000s. Finally got over the hump against them in the semifinals in 2008. I've seen them a number of times over the course of the last 10, 15 seasons here at Northwest. And so Grand Valley State, a team that this program has a lot of history with, if they can win this week, obviously you get to football time and all bets are off. So you then have to refocus and say, okay, now we get a chance to go to Michigan, take on Grand Valley, and see what we can do.
Yeah, quick look at those regional rankings. The Bearcats fall in Super Region 3. Ferris State is ranked number 1 right now. They're 9-0. They beat Grand Valley earlier this year. Ouachita, 10-0. Grand Valley State, 7-1. Those are your top 3 seeds. The top seed does get a bye for the first round, and as that stands, that would be Ferris State. The University of Indianapolis, they are the 4 seed right now at 8-1. Fort Hays, who defeated Northwest last week, they're now the 5 seed. Northwest is still in as that 6 seed, and then the last team in is Southern Arkansas. First 3 teams out, Harding, Missouri S&T, and Pittsburgh State. So if you're Northwest, if you lose it, there's some, like Justin said, some crazy scenarios where maybe you still get in. But it would probably take 8, 9, and 10 all to lose as well. And I think Pittsburgh State has Southern or Northeastern this week.
At the very least, 8 and 9. Pitt State,
you can make an argument.
Northwest has the head-to-head over Pitt State, so I don't think the committee would rank them above Pitt State with 3 losses because Pitt also has 3. But certainly you would need S&T and Harding to both lose.
Yeah, and you look at it, Harding this week, they take on the University of Arkansas Monticello Boll Weevils, who are 5-5 on the season, so they're going to be favored in that one. You would need some things to happen, but they're not thinking about that. They're thinking about hopefully just going down there, taking care of business, and getting the win, and like I said, starting their playoffs tomorrow.
Yeah, and if they do go down and get the win, then you start to look at this regional bracket, and I think 6 is about the best place you can hope for at this point. You drop to the 7. you're going to have to go to Arkansas to play Ouachita Baptist.
I almost think that'd be a better matchup for them than going
The problem is
Grand Valley.
that the next week you're going to end up
Then
having to go to Grand Valley anyway, and that's for a regional semifinal. If you're going to play Grand Valley, you might as well play them as early as you can. I think this sets up the best way because you play Grand Valley. Then you're looking at the winner of Ouachita and Southern Arkansas, two teams from the GAC, one of the weaker conferences in Division II football. Now, again, they produced a team last year that played for the national championship in Harding. That you do have to think about that a little bit. But GAC, historically a weaker conference, and it's tough to tell because they don't play anybody outside of their conference, but that's one of the things you have to think about if you're Northwest is that now all of a sudden you get a matchup with two teams that you feel like you can beat for a trip to the regional final game against probably Ferris State.
Yeah, so a lot on the line this weekend. Let's kind of jump back. There's a lot on the line this weekend because of what happened last weekend. The Bearcats dropped I don't even know how to put it, a heartbreaker, I guess, so to speak, to Fort Hays State by a score of 17-16. You heard that game on X106. So we were literally on the roof from Bearcat Stadium. Have you guys unthawed yet? I'm still kind of cold from calling the game.
I think that may be from today.
It could be today.
It's pretty
too.
cold out there today.
But,
in fact, it's significantly colder out there today
much colder.
than it was.
I'm glad we're doing
than
it.
It was Saturday.
I'm glad we had last week's weather last week and this week's weather this week and not flipped around because it would have been miserable tomorrow.
Yeah.
But anywho, they dropped to Fort Hays State 17-16. Fort Hays State and Northwest now tied for the MIAA championship. They don't have tiebreakers in the MIAA, so they would clinch a share if both teams win tomorrow. But now Northwest, they would need a win and a Fort Hays loss, which doesn't seem likely this weekend.
They take on
Northeastern State, who's yet to win a game this year.
Yeah.
So pretty much in all essence, Fort Hays has clinched a share of the MIAA title.
Yeah, and I think it's back-to-back years for them. First 2 years for them that they've ever won an MIAA title, and Northwest gets back on track if they win this week to share that MIAA title. They had 4 in a row previously. This would make 5 out of 6 that they've at least shared. So, all is not lost because of the loss last week. Yes, it was frustrating. Yes, it was heartbreaking. Yes, you played a terrible game. They just didn't come out and play very well, and that's frustrating and unfortunate. But you got another week to play. You're still in the playoff picture right now. You just got to show up and do your thing. Yeah,
it was interesting happenings last week. The offense just never really could gel and find a rhythm, and they had opportunities late in the game. I think it was a 4th down, and I can't remember if it was late 3rd quarter, early 4th quarter. They chose to go for it. Ran a jet sweep with Sean Bain Jr. Play took too long to develop. They ended up getting dropped for a loss and turning the ball over on downs. A blocked extra point that ultimately ended up being, I don't want to say it was the difference, but it would have evened the score at 17 all.
Mathematically,
it was the difference. Who knows how that would have actually... Right. But, mathematically, it was the difference.
Right.
So it just seemed like anything that could go wrong for Northwest on Saturday, it did. I don't really know if there's much better way to put it.
They just couldn't get anything going. They struggled in terms of consistency offensively. They struggled to really get the ball moving. They played great defensively, save for a couple of plays that burnt them a couple of times. But outside of that, they played really well defensively. They just came out and really just fell flat on offense. And sometimes you're going to have games when that happens. It just was unfortunate that it came against Fort Hays State. If you go out and fall flat like that on offense against a Southern team or a Northeastern State team, then you're going to be able to come out of it. But if you come out and fall flat against a team as good as Fort Hays, then you're going to struggle and you're probably going to lose the game.
I think, 4 minutes to go in the first half before they got their first down of the game, something like that.
Yeah.
They couldn't find any consistency offensively. And that's one of those things that will happen. Certainly the sky is not falling here in Maryville by any means. Even 8-2, there's a lot of programs right now that would love to be 8-2 in the position that Northwest is in. Even if they finish 8-3 and miss the playoffs, I know we might look at that as a down year here, but probably 75-80% of the programs right now in Division II would say, "Man, I'd love to be 8-3."
Well, we're spoiled here at Northwest in
Exactly.
that anything short of a national championship is a down year at Northwest. It seems like so.
Kind of contracted that Nebraska syndrome. It seems like where.
I feel like it would be the Alabama syndrome at this point, being, because if you're an Alabama fan and yeah, you go 14-1 and lose the national championship game, you feel like the season's a failure. It's easy to do that at a program like Northwest or at a program like Alabama, but one of the things you have to realize is like you were saying, Trevor, is that there are so many programs in Division II football right now that would kill to be where Northwest is.
Well, and I think, too, you look at it, you've got a redshirt freshman quarterback who's going to be back. And there's some other, you lose some pieces, a guy like a Sean Bain Jr., and you lose some pieces on the defensive side as well. But there's still some good pieces that the future is still very bright if in the event that things don't go their way this weekend. So,
right.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't act like it is. Looking to this week with Central Missouri, I know Justin's going to make that trek. How far of a drive is it to Warrensburg?
From here, it's about 2.5 hours.
Not too bad.
I'm heading home today, and it's about 30 minutes from my house. So
there you go.
I'll be fine.
Have a really short drive. You're not bringing Wegley home with you, are you?
No, he's going home and meeting me there Saturday.
Okay, I don't blame you. Anyways, looking towards this matchup, what's going to be one thing you guys are going to kind of be keeping an eye on tomorrow?
For me, it's just offensive consistency.
These are the top 2 scoring offenses right now in the MIAA.
First drive of the game. That's going to be the key. The first drive of the game will be the key. Whether it's offensively or defensively, it doesn't matter. If you're Northwest, you just have to come out and establish the momentum in the first drive of the game. If you can come out, if it's a defensive drive, which normally it is if they win the toss, then they will start on defense. But if you come out and it's a defensive drive, then you need to come out and shut down that Central Missouri offense, drive 1. If it's an offensive drive, you've got to drive down the football field and score on drive number 1, so you can establish that momentum and and everybody in the place knows that you're there to play ball.
For me, it's more on Braden Wright. And seeing last week, he missed several throws. He wasn't necessarily making the best reads. Don't know if necessarily that was play calling or what was going on there. But see if Braden Wright can get things fixed at the quarterback position, get back to the way he looked at the beginning of the season, where we all thought he was going to be this new superstar quarterback for the Bearcats. It's kind of fallen off a little bit here mid-season. See if you can get back to that and just get him ready to go. They indeed win and head to go try to win a playoff game.
I think the offense is going to be the biggest key to the game, but I think something that I'm going to be looking for during the entire game is how many turnovers are the Northwest defense going to force? Because we talked about, the Hunt's got about 7 interceptions, and Northwest, 3 of the last 4 games has had at least 1 interception, and so I think that giving Braden Wright a couple of short fields to work with, the offense a couple of short fields to work with, will help boost that offense, kind of get that confidence back. Maybe they can get a couple of interceptions early in the game to kind of get them into the flow a little bit better.
It'll be interesting. That is a 1 p.m. kickoff down in Warrensburg. Justin will be providing updates on his Twitter at jquick88.
Yep.
Okay, I thought I got it right. So definitely give him a follow. He'll be keeping you up to date. I believe also Andrew Wegley will probably have some quick takes, so to speak. From that one. We're going to take a real quick break. We get back, we're going to look at some of the other sports going on here at Northwest. Volleyball concluded their regular season, and the basketball season has officially begun here in Maryville. You're listening to the Weekend Sports Kickoff on KNWT Channel 8 and X106. Welcome back in to the Weekend Sports Kickoff on KNWT Channel 8 and X106. Trevor Mader, Ryan Elliott, Jacob Blair, Kramer Sansone with you until 5 o'clock. All of us are here till 5 o'clock for just the second time in show history. So, wow, we got the whole band together today, and I think we all need to applaud ourselves.
That's good for us.
Yeah, good for us. We're actually doing our jobs today. Bearcat Athletics, we just recapped football, previewed football, I guess, as well with the matchup last week and the matchup this week. But that's not the only sport going on here at Northwest Missouri State now, as basketball season is officially upon us. And also a sport is most likely come to a close as well with the volleyball season, as they dropped in 3 sets to Central Missouri in the quarterfinals. The MIAA, was it 4? They took the 4th. In the MIAA tournament on Tuesday night. All my days run together.
Tuesday.
So
yeah,
you guys called the game.
It was Tuesday night. They picked up the 3rd set. It was kind of dominated the whole game by Central Missouri, but Central Missouri was the 11th ranked team in the country, sitting at the 5th seed in the MIAA tournament. So it was a tough matchup for Northwest, and the tough thing for the Northwest volleyball team is they sit in the strongest region out there where they sit, who they've played, who they've beaten this season. They're sitting 10th in the latest regional rankings. You look around at some of the other records of teams and who they've played around there. There's some other regions that Northwest might be sitting a 3 or 4 seed in with their resume, but unfortunately, just with the region they're in, their season's probably over, even though they've got a resume worthy of being in the NCAA tournament.
What was it you said? They're the 28th ranked team in the nation, and they're the 10th ranked team in their
region. Correct. Yep. They had, I think 64 total votes tallied in the most recent poll, and that put them 28. So technically they don't have a number by their name, but if you extend it out, it puts them at 28, and then they're 10th in their region. So it's just a tough region for them. They had a great season, and and any other region really, I think their season would be extended to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, this was a really good senior class at Northwest had at the beginning of the season, the entire season, and it shows like all the potential for next season as well, because for a fact those seniors helped the younger women on that team, and with the seniors that pulled out, like first team MIAA like credentials, and also second team was really good, as it was Maddie Bruder first team.
She was player of the year too,
and player of the year as well. Trying to think, Maddie Ahrens was also, and Sophia Schleppenbach were all first team, and then Olivia Nowakowski and Hallie Sidney were second team at all MIAA honors. So it's really good as 5 of them got into it.
Yeah, you mentioned the seniors. They do bid farewell to a handful of seniors. Sophia Schleppenbach, Maddie Bruder, Megan Stillmock, and Olivia Nowakowski are 4 seniors from that class. Those seniors had seen a lot of playing time over the past couple of years, and obviously their contributions to the program were very big. But I still think there's a lot to be desired with this. As my microphone tries to run away from me, there's a lot with this program returning. You look at Hallie Sidney, Maddie Ahrens, even someone like a Sydney Burton. Those kids can step up and make plays as well, I think. So there's still the cupboard's not completely empty for this Bearcat volleyball squad.
Yeah, I agree. I think you look at a Maddie Ahrens, the setter, a sophomore, first team All MIAA setter in a sophomore year. That's a place you want to be. I think that's
you got Rachel Sturdivant as a freshman who saw some quality time this year.
Right, and the other one is Hallie Sidney, the outside hitter. She's another sophomore. She won second team All MIAA this year. So those are 2 girls that are going to come back. But I think the big thing that for this volleyball team, as you look in the next few years, is they have the reigning MIAA Coach of the Year.
Yes.
Amy Worth was named MIAA Coach of the Year this year. Obviously, a huge honor for her, and I think well-deserved. Amy Worth does a fantastic job with this program. She continues to grow these girls as they come through the program and they become more prepared, not only to play volleyball, but more prepared in terms of life experience. And I think that's something that I've heard from her quite often in interviews and that kind of thing, is that yes, she wants to produce great volleyball players, but she also wants to produce great people. And I think that is a big draw for this volleyball program, is that it is Amy Worth, and I think she's going to continue to do a great job and continue to see this volleyball program improve. They've continued to improve over the last 4 years that we've seen here at Northwest. Each of the last 4 years, they've gotten better and better and better and better, and I think there's still more places to go for this volleyball team.
Exactly. It's going to be a good recruiting class in these next few years, seeing what Northwest is, their second 21 season since 1996. So
I think you're right.
And it's also a few players to also mention that's probably going to step up and have a bigger role is Morgan Lewis and Bethany Elkins. With Bruder and Schleppenbach going to be graduating, those are some 2 big hitters for Northwest and also very good defensive-wise as well.
And also they lose their libero and Olivia Nowakowski. That's something that it's maybe kind of one of the unsung positions of volleyball, because when you look at the stats, the libero is not the one normally it's going to get the kills, going to get the blocks, but it was a very key point to an offense, and they're going to have to fill those shoes in some way. They finish assuming the season is over. We still don't know for sure, but it looks pretty bleak at this point. They will finish their season with a record of 22-8. So tip of the cap to Coach Worth and the job she did this year, as Ryan alluded to, MIAA Coach of the Year.
I don't exactly remember the year, but it's only like their second 20-win season.
2016. 2016 was the last 21 season. They went 22-9 in 2016.
Well, I'm saying it's only their second since like 1998 or something 99. Like that. So where Worth has gotten this team is great, and she deserves Coach of the Year with the MIAA.
And I like that stat you mentioned, the second 21 season since 1999, and those 2 have come in the last 3 years. And I think that tells you exactly what you need to know about it.
It was also the most wins they've gotten in the MIAA this year. They
Was
broke
14,
the record.
I think, wasn't it?
Yep.
Now transition over to the hardwood. Well, I guess volleyball is played on the hardwood too, but
Good try.
Exact
to the-
same hardwood.
Yeah,
Good
That-
try.
Same. I did that on purpose. I set you guys
Sure
up.
you
So
did.
the game is played with an orange
Don't
ball
believe you
instead of a
for a
white ball. How is that?
That's better.
Basketball season is upon us. The men's are already underway, but let's focus on the women's at first. They will begin their season tonight at 7:30 p.m. in glorious, scenic Wayne, Nebraska. I don't know if it's glorious or scenic. I've never been there.
Playing in a nice little shootout up in
Yeah.
Wayne this weekend with, a pair. It's going to be a tale of two games this weekend. I think you look at a Wayne State team that's experienced. They've got a little bit of size. They're going to come in, and this Northwest team is going to be in a dogfight game one. They're going to come in against a Minnesota Crookston team tomorrow night that I think is going to be, I won't say an easy win, but a team that is relatively unexperienced. They don't have a ton of size. I think a team that Northwest matches up with a little bit better. But it's gonna be fun tonight for this women's basketball team in Wayne, Nebraska. They're gonna get into a dogfight game one, and they're gonna have their mettle tested right off the bat.
Yeah, they play Wayne State in Wayne, Nebraska tonight at 7:30. Turn around and play Minnesota Crookston tomorrow at 3:30. Their first home game next Wednesday, a 7 p.m. tip-off against the College of St. Mary from Nebraska. You can hear that game on X106 with Kramer Sansone and Jacob Blair on the call. You look at this team, a new head coach in Austin Meyer, longtime men's assistant, making the switch over, got the head job, and cupboard was pretty full for him. He's got a lot of pieces from last year's team that are a year more mature. They've got a year more experience, and this is a team that I think can maybe surprise some people a little bit.
I think so too. I think you look at this team offensively. I think is built around Jalen Haggard now. At that one, she's a solid point guard, and you can kind of build around that. You look at some of the girls on this team. Mallory McAndrews and a lot of really good shooters in McAndrews and McConkey. You look at Kylie Coleman on the outside is a good shooter. Zoe Hayward is a good shooter. So these are all really good basketball players on the outside, and then you've got some size on the inside with Detlinger and
Mayava.
Kaylani Maya. Well, you're right. And so you look at this team, and I think this is something you got to be excited about if you're Austin Meyer. You get to step in with this new group of girls. You've got some really good help on the bench. You talk about assistant coach Adai Houston, who's done a fantastic job. He was with the Northwest basketball program not too long ago, and even you get Macy Williams back in a student assistant role this year. I think she's going to help out a lot, especially with having that face for these girls to go to that they're familiar with on this staff. That's going to be a big-time thing.
I'm going to make a bold prediction with this women's team. The last 2 years, they've won a combined 14 games. I think they get that this year. I think around 500 is probably
I think that's absolutely attainable. And I think even more. I think a winning record is attainable for this.
Well, there's 28 games,
team.
so you're saying 14 wins, they're getting to 500.
Yeah.
I don't think that's too crazy.
I'm excited to see what with Coach Meyer, what he's going to do with this team. And I know they're young. They're still pretty young with their core that they have, and also going into recruiting classes as well after this season and more beyond. But this is going to be a very exciting team to watch, and I'm excited to watch them.
Yeah.
Speaking of exciting teams to watch, the men's team right now looks like they're going to be a pretty exciting team to watch. It's not your Justin Pitt, Zach Schneider, Chrissy Buendow team. A lot of those guys, all those guys are gone now. But 2 games last week in St. Joe for the Small College Basketball Hall of Fame Classic. They won those 2 games by averaging 86 points a game, defeating Northern State 72-70 in overtime, and then taking down Ferris State 100-86. It's also worth mentioning those are the 2 teams that competed for the national title last year, although Ferris did lose pretty much everything from that national championship team, but 2 pretty good wins for the Bearcats this past weekend.
2 fantastic wins. I think you look at, a lot of people want to look at the Ferris State win and say, okay, they beat the defending national champions by 14 and put up 100 and started 10 for 10 from 3.
I think they graduated 3 seniors and one of them transferred.
They graduated 6.
But they graduated 3 starters, I think,
and
one of them
3 starters and lost 6 in total.
Yeah.
And I think that you look at this Ferris State team, and it's a team that kind of caught lightning in a bottle last year, and was able to run to a national championship game, and yes, they're still a good basketball team, but it's clearly not the team that saw a national championship last year. I think the more impressive win is the overtime win against Northern State in a game where you only shot 33% from the field. That is the big one to me, when you can gut out a win like that in overtime, game one, really not playing well.
Yeah, so a couple good wins for the Bearcats. They're 2-0. Some notable stats from this past weekend, and I guess some season stats. Again, only 2 games in, so take them for what you want. But redshirt freshman Trevor Hudgens, he looks like he is going to be something pretty good down the road.
That's right where I was headed, is seeing his first 2 games. There's an impressive factor from him, and he's not the same player that and this team really does not feel like the same team we've seen at Northwest. Through the Justin Pitts era, it's a much more explosive, maybe offensive team. Like, I know Justin Pitts was that offensive powerhouse for the Bearcats, but you saw last year when he was hurt, the team struggled to score some points last year. I don't think point scoring is going to be an issue for this team. And we saw 2 different, as Ryan was saying, we saw 2 different styles of games played by the Bearcats. But the second one, the one they beat Ferris State, that's the team where if they play like that, I think Ryan said this during this week, was it's going to be hard for anybody to beat Northwest with how explosive this team has the ability to be at times.
Looking at some of these stats, like I said, just 2 games in, so take it for what you want. They've got 4 players averaging double digits right now. Hudgens with 25.5, Wittes with 17, Ryan Hawkins with 15, and then how about Kirk Fenley, 13 points per game so far this season.
I think where they're going to struggle, because there are going to be growing pains with this team.
Yeah.
They're a young team. They've still got a lot of learning to do. There are going to be some growing pains. One of the places that they're going to struggle is the fact that right now, for the most part, they're working with 7. They're working with, you've got your starting 5 in Welty, Hawkins, Wittes, Finley, Hudgens. You're bringing Bernard and Tyler Doherty off the bench. You're not getting a whole lot of meaningful participation from the rest of the bench.
If you get in a situation where you have foul trouble or something like that, then
you're running with 7. So guys are going to start to get tired. I think they're also going to run into an issue in terms of they're going to give up some points this year, especially if, when you run into a team that's got, let's say, a long athletic 2, that I think is a place that they're going to struggle. I think, Kirk Finley does a great job defensively. He's going to work his butt off for this team. But you get a guy that's 6'5", 6'6", and athletic, he's going to have a problem keeping up with him. And Diego Bernard's going to have a problem keeping up with him at 6'1". So and those are your options at the 2 in that situation. I think growing into that spot, realizing that, hey, maybe we're going to have to take Dre Starzl in and move Wittes out to a long 2, that might be something to consider.
And also, I feel like they're going to get beat a lot inside this year because of one is height. But if they can still outscore them like they have been the 2 games that they've played, that won't be a big factor. But going towards the middle part of the season, sometimes bigs do help you win a lot of ball games, get those offensive boards off the glass, put it back up, and that's something I feel like they need to work on a little bit more. I mean, we really haven't seen it as much. I mean, there's been 2 games so far this season, so you really can't. You have to take it with a grain of salt on this, but still, there's something they could get beat off the glass like that.
And kind of talking to Kramer's concern in the game, they beat Ferris State. They scored 100. Only 38 points were scored in the paint. So a lot of outside shooting. I think they ended up, was it 14 for 24 from the 3-point line?
Yeah,
so
12 of 14.
And there's some nights
this is going to be
that's just not there.
This is a true, this is going to be a live or die by the 3-point line style team. But when they play well, they're going to be tough to beat. And then they have the ability with some athleticism, if they're not shooting well, to maybe get some open shots off the dribble. The issue is there's no one really to go inside to get some short game working there on the block.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about was over the 2 games this weekend in St. Joe, one of the kids that looked good, and I think we're going to end up seeing a lot more from, is Tyler Doherty. Coming out, he's wearing number 32. He looks exactly like Brett. And so it's I'm sure in the course of calling a game, we're all going to have trouble, and we're probably all going to call him Brett at least once this season. Because he looks so much like him and he plays so much like him. And I don't know that there's a bigger compliment that you can give a guy in that he plays like Brett Doherty, because Tyler he's gonna come through. He's gonna carve out his own legacy apart from his brother, but he plays so much like him that I think, the way that he plays the game of basketball is really going to benefit this team because he's going to mix it up inside. He's going to do the work he needs to do. He's a little bit of a smaller guy, and I think he realizes that. So the footwork is going to be better than everybody else. The touch is going to be better than everybody else, just like Brett's was. And so I think as he continues to grow into his role on this basketball team, he's going to be really, I would say, a secret weapon for this team. He'll be a threat inside that I think a lot of people won't expect because he's only 6'7".
And you mentioned a 2-game swing last week in St. Joe. They also have a 2-game swing this weekend in St. Joe. They will take on Upper Iowa tonight at 5:30 p.m. This will be the season opener for the Peacocks of Upper Iowa's.
And a perennial playoff team in Upper Iowa.
I think they lost quite a bit from last year, but like you said, a perennial consistent playoff team.
They always seem to put together a tough program. They always seem to put together a team that can compete. And I expect them to do the same this weekend, and I expect Northwest to be in for it against Upper Iowa as we take the Hilliard Tip-Off Classic this weekend.
Well, one thing, just looking at Upper Iowa's rosters, they're young. They're young like Northwest, and they only got 3 seniors, but a lot of redshirt freshmen, a lot of redshirt sophomores, and it's a young team with Upper Iowa, so it'll be interesting how the 2 young squads match up.
And they held an exhibition with Northern Iowa about a week ago. Did only lose by 20. Northern Iowa not going to be a power in the Missouri Valley this year like they've been in years past, but they did go toe-to-toe for the most part with the Division I team and didn't get their
If you go solely based on exhibition scores, it's a much better team than Ferris State. One of the things that I looked at prior to the Ferris State game last week was they, as the national champions, got the exhibition game with Duke, 138-42.
Yeah, they got blasted.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, I didn't actually know that score.
Yeah.
I think I would have hid that score. Now, we'll get to this later, but we know what Duke team Ferris State was playing compared to the Duke teams that these
even
Division
Northwest
II squads
played last year.
Yeah.
But looking at the other matchup in St. Joe this week as part of the Hilliard Classic, they will take on Winona State. It'll also be Winona State's season opener. That is a 5:30 tip-off. You can hear that game on X106 with myself and Ryan Elliott from the St. Joe Civic Center. Again, that is a 5:30 tip-off. Pregame coverage coming your way probably sometime around 5:10 or 5:15. We're going to take a real quick break. Wrapping things up about 15 minutes or so until we say goodbye. I'm Trevor Mader, joined by Ryan Elliott, Jacob Blair, and another new face today. I think it's like the 8th different face we've had on the weekend sports kickoff because why not? The assistant sports editor of the Northwest Missourian, one Andrew Wegley. Andrew, how's it going?
Oh, I'm pretty good. If it wasn't so cold outside, I'd be better. But
so you're dressed like it's pretty cold.
Yeah, I got the flannel type shirt on, and I got Under Armour on underneath this, so I'm just getting ready for the game tonight. It's set to be 17 degrees tonight, but the wind chill will probably have it down close to 0. So
I'm kind of in the same boat you are tonight as far as the game that I'm going to be covering. Sounds like I'm going to be outside. Not all of us get to hang out indoors tonight like Jacob and Ryan do.
We're going to have the windows open.
Yeah, so it'd be chilly. Speaking of that said game that Jacob, I'm sure they wouldn't mind if you came up in the booth and hung out.
I thought about it. Last week
welcome.
I was up there at halftime in the press box, and I tried the handle, but you guys had the door locked.
Well, you are more than welcome to come hang out.
We had the door locked?
Yes, you did.
Okay, we did not mean to do that.
I can personally promise I will not have the door locked this evening. So
I
you
had
can
no
hang
idea
out.
the door was
If I get enough photos in the
halftime.
first half, I might take a trip up to the
Are you
press
sure you
box
got to the right press box and didn't go into the wrong one?
It said like Northwest student.
Yeah,
whatever.
You went to the right one.
Yeah.
The door was not locked.
Jacob probably just didn't want you in there.
That's what it sounds
and now
like.
he's feeling
That's what it
pretty
feels
uncomfortable
like.
with it. But speaking of that game, Savannah taking on Maryville tonight, Class 3 District 8 championship. I believe they're District 8. I don't have the right in front of me.
Yep.
Savannah taking on Maryville. They met a couple weeks ago. Maryville took it to them 41-7. That game being played at the Hound Pound. You can hear it on X106 with Ryan Elliott and Jacob Blair. Reminder, all broadcasts of Maryville Spoof Hound Football brought to you by Joy Walk, located in the Mary Mart Shopping Center, and Nottoway Valley Bank. For more information, visit online at nvb.com. But just kind of tell me a little about this game, guys. Well, what are some of the things you're looking to?
I'll be interested to see who plays tonight for Maryville because Eli Dallas has been out. He went down in that first Savannah game back in October. And then Ben Walker and Connor Weiss have now missed every game since Lafayette for an unknown reason. I asked Matt Webb about it finally. He doesn't like to talk about absences or injuries. So I finally asked him about it on Sunday, and I said, can you give me any reason as to, why they aren't playing? And he said, nope, they'll play when they play. So there's your answer. And we'll find out tonight. Eli, was nursing a knee injury, and we have no idea the timetable on that because this is a high school team and not an NFL team, so it's not really any of our business, I suppose. But, we'll see who plays tonight, and then just how they can contain the Savannah running back. His name's Titan. I honestly forgot his last name, but they contained him last time, but the field conditions were very adverse. I mean, there was standing water on the field in that game, and a different environment tonight could be a run-heavy game, I think, just with the crisp temperatures out there. So, we'll see about that.
First of all, Titan, solid.
A very solid
that's
name.
Solid.
He doesn't
even
even need a nickname because his real name is
he doesn't need a last name.
He doesn't.
He could just
I'm
be
glad
Titan.
I don't know it.
That's fine. That's fine.
There's some good names out there.
Yeah, and I think you'll see some adverse conditions this evening as well. It's a cold field. It's going to be a cold, hard night tonight. And like you said, you're going to have to run the football tonight. There's really no way around it. I mean, this is one of those nights where everything's going to hurt a little bit more. You take the shots and they're going to hurt just that much more, and you're going to have to fight just that much harder just for everything tonight.
And I had the opportunity to talk to Savannah head football coach Randy Schrader. You'll hear that interview right before kickoff tonight. And he kind of said the same thing, that it's going to be one of those games where you're not used to playing games as cold as this or as snowy as this. They don't come by super often, and running the football is going to be very, very vital tonight. Definitely the quarterback situation in Maryville.
I'll tell you what, though, for a high school kid, this is going to be one of the most fun environments to
bet.
be in. This is football weather. It's November. It's football time.
I disagree. I mean, I'll be honest. I never played football in high school, but I can't imagine wanting to play when it's roughly 0 degrees outside. If it was snowing, it'd be cool. But I mean, there's not even a ton of snow out there right now. I mean, it's just cold, and like you said, everything's going to sting a little more. I would not want to be Tyler Houchen tonight. I would not want to be Corbin Cook.
Well, that's the best
or
part,
Aiden
big guy.
Cohen, or I would not want to be one of those guys that's going to be taking hits, 3 times, 4 times a possession, and yeah.
You know how when you're a kid in high school, you feel like you're invincible, right? You get to prove that on nights like this.
I suppose
everything hurts a little bit more. It's I don't know. This is football.
It'll
weather.
definitely test their grit tonight.
Absolutely.
But I mean, district championship, everything on the line. I don't think they'll hold back at all, regardless of what the thermometer says.
So Andrew, you had the opportunity the first time these teams met. I want to say it was week 8.
It was somewhere around there because they were both undefeated in conference.
It was the last week. It was the next to last week of the regular season.
Yes, because Maryville was 6-1 going into that game.
And they took it to Savannah pretty convincingly, 41-7 in that one. Just what were some of the things that stuck out to you in that game that maybe you'll be keeping an eye on
I think
tonight?
The biggest part of that game was Eli Dallas's injury, but like we already talked about, Maryville just kind of had their way offensively. That was one of Ben Walker's best games. He played well. Tyler Houchen played well. Eli, before he went down, played well. Connor Weiss played well. But 3 of those players I just listed, again, not playing or haven't played. Didn't play last week. Might not play tonight. We're not sure. Other than that, the run game for Maryville has been just insane all year. But another thing, Maryville's defense, they only give up 7 points in that matchup. Savannah is a team that's averaging 49 points per game this year. So pretty stark difference there with your average. You take their average total, you divide it by 7, and that's what they scored against a Maryville. So the defense is once again going to play a big factor. I think that's always true with Maryville. But if their defense can only give up 7 points, which is what they've averaged, close to what they've averaged this year, 7 points per game allowed, then you're not going to lose this game if you're Maryville, because all you have to do is score a touchdown and go for 2 and get it. I mean, you could win this game 8-7 if you had to. So if the defense plays like they've been playing all year, that'll be something to watch. And if they don't, that'll be an even bigger story. So
yeah, Savannah this year, they started the season 0-2. They lost to a pretty good Grain Valley team, and they also had an early season hiccup to start 0-2. Then they peeled off 5 in a row and then got taken to by Maryville. They're coming off a pretty impressive win over St. Pius X last week, and I think they're coming in tonight. I think they're kind of playing with house money, so to speak. Who knows if that's gonna mean anything, but I don't know that there's anyone that's really picking Savannah to pull off the upset. I think it's been, and Coach Schrader says himself, the rivalry the last 6 or 7 years has been one-sided. I believe the last time Savannah beat Maryville was 2012 is what he informed me. But it's going to be an interesting matchup tonight. I think the weather could make this one a little bit closer scoring than the first one. But it's going to be fun. Postseason football in November.
Yeah.
Great time. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd say, and another thing, it's the district title. I mean, these kids, especially the seniors in Savannah, you've kind of waiting for this moment your entire high school career, in your entire life, so to speak. So if there's ever a time for them to rise up and rise to the occasion, it would be tonight. But anything could happen. It's high school sports.
Yeah, that's why you show up and play it. Reminder, you can hear that game on X106 with Ryan Elliott and Jacob Blair. You guys all prepped and ready to go for that one?
I guess. Yeah, no, we're excited. We're ready to give a good call tonight. It's going to be a fun game, and we'll hope for a competitive one.
Jacob, you called their game last week against Chillicothe. Just what were some of the things that stuck out to you last week?
The difference in putting different guys out there at the quarterback position. They started with Tyler Hare, then they went to Tate Oglesby under center. Really, he was in the shotgun most of the time, but he was able to hit a couple impressive passes. So it'll be interesting to see who they have in at quarterback at what time, and maybe they're going to run a rotation tonight. It just will be interesting to see how that progresses throughout the game.
Yeah, that's one of those things. Again, we don't really want to speculate. We don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah, I talked to Matt Webb about that in my interview on Sunday, and he said that if Tyler Hare gives him the best opportunity on any given play, he'll take the snaps at quarterback. And then he said, if Tate gives him a better opportunity, then he'll take the snaps at quarterback, and it'll be I guess like last week, a revolving door of sorts. And yeah, like you said, two impressive passes. He hit Dion Medezire, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, on a 38-yard pass, and then a 25-yard pass consecutively for the touchdown on the second one. So
and I think the approach that it sounds like we could see tonight is kind of fits the philosophy we've seen in Maryville. If you put the team ahead of the individual and you want the best situation, I think if you see a guy like Eli Dallas, you're going to see a lot more of plays out of a wildcat, so to speak. And maybe Tate Oglesby more for passing situations. But it's going to be a ton of fun tonight. The winner of that will take on Odessa. The winner of Odessa, Pembroke Hills. I believe that'll be next Saturday. Now they start transitioning to Saturday afternoon games. I believe if Maryville wins, they are the home team, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so if Maryville wins, we will have that game broadcasted for you next Saturday on X106. You can hear tonight's game with Ryan Elliott and Jacob Blair. The This Week in High School Sports / postseason football preview show will begin at around 6. To have a handful of interviews lined up from some area coaches, including the Savannah head coach Randy Schrader, and then a couple 8-man coaches, including Pattonsburg head football coach Chase Roberts and Mound City football coach Taylor Standiford, as both those teams are competing tonight in district finals as well in Class 8-man.